Most of the polling shows that the reason Labour are ahead is because they don't like the Conservatives. It's not because of anything that Starmer is actually putting down. And arguably, you know, he's talking about we'll invest in public services after we get the economy back on track. Well, you can't get the economy back on track unless you invest in public services. It's an incredible catch-22.
Well, you can get the private sector moving whilst reforming public services. There are things that we can do in the private sector on skills, on productivity, on technology, supporting businesses to improve their exports, which will get the economy growing, which will then result in some more money coming into our bank account in order to pay for public services. So there's a whole economy piece, and it's very complicated, it's very hard, and it's going to take time to turn it around because the country's in such a mess.
You sound like a Conservative when you say that.
I don't think I am, because we're talking about reform. We're not saying the status quo is okay, we're saying things have to change, and we've got those 5 missions, which I think are very bold for the country.
Our country is going through a real crisis. The Starmer-led Labour Party is betraying our freedoms in the context of Brexit, ignoring immigration issues, and jeopardizing our special relationship with the United States. Everything seems to be heading for a crash. But for Starmer, the situation is getting even worse. His own MPs are leaving the party faster than ever, turning away from him because he is betraying all the principles that the Labour Party is fighting for. The time has come to discuss the utter chaos reigning in the Labour Party under the leadership of Keir Starmer. When I started to figure it out, I thought it was bad.
Listen, my advice to Keir Starmer is to stop being an idiot, because, listen, Keir Starmer and half of the cabinet voted against President Trump's state visit last time round. We've got so many of members of the cabinet, David Lammy notably, having carried out vitriolic and ridiculous personal attacks on Donald Trump. They're all now desperately trying to backtrack, and they're all desperately trying to suck up to President Trump. You know, at best, they're going to be irrelevant, but at worst, they have done great harm to the UK's national interest. So they've got to grow up, stop playing petty student politics, and actually stand up for the UK, get a free trade agreement, work on ensuring our military and security agreements are robust, and learn the lessons of how Donald Trump is securing their border for a start.
But let me say that the situation is much worse than I imagined. We're talking about a mass exodus that's happening right in front of Starmer's eyes. The Labour Party literally survives its members of parliament, as if there is no tomorrow. We are talking about big names, people who have worked in the Labour Party for years, even decades. These are experienced politicians who have seen a lot, and now they are leaving the party. Why? This is not just an accident. One of the MPs told me that Starmer's Labour Party is not the party he joined. Oh, that must be painful, right? But the situation is only getting worse. Some argue that Starmer has betrayed the core values of the Labour Party. Do you remember when the Labour Party stood up for the working class? Those days are long gone.
We're very pleased with the by-election results from last night. I think it's very clear that people are crying out for change across the country. They think that the Tories have failed. They can see that most things are broken. They look at the Labour Party and see a changed party. And last night, people who hadn't voted Labour before went out and voted Labour. So I'm very pleased with both of those results. But there is more work to do. There's a long way to go.
Starmer is too busy trying to present Labour as candidates for the middle class in the election. He forgot about those whom the Labour Party should represent: the working class, the outsiders, the people who most need a strong Labour Party. And you know what? People notice it. They see that the Labour Party under Starmer's leadership is not the party they grew up in. It is no longer a people's party. It is turning into a party of the elite, centrists, people who are doing well. Thank you very much. So what does this mean for the future of Labour? Everything looks extremely gloomy. If Starmer can't hold on to his party, how is he going to run the country? Every outgoing member of parliament, every outgoing advisor is another hole in the body.
Last night, time and time again, Rishi Sunak was clobbering you over the head with that £2,000 tax line. It took you almost half an hour to call it garbage. What on earth took you so long?
What matters is the facts. None of our plans involve tax rises for working people, and I'll spell it out. No income tax rises, no national insurance, no VAT. But what emerged from last night, and this is a very important takeaway, is that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with his back against the wall, desperately trying to defend their record in office, resorted to lies, and he knows he was lying. And I don't say that lightly. Lying about our plans, lying about waiting lists, and lying about votes. And therefore the choice at the election is even clearer now, which is to turn our back, turn a page on the lies, the division and the chaos of the last 14 years and rebuild the country.
Starmer's ship is sinking. His defence policy is not just risky, it threatens Britain's national security and its credibility on the world stage. We're talking about decades of carefully built relationships and influences that can collapse overnight. Since 2016, NATO has required its members to increase defence spending to 2% of GDP. It's not just numbers in tables, it's a matter of preparedness for an increasingly unstable world. Most countries struggle to cope with this task, but Starmer takes it to a whole new level of irresponsibility. He is delaying reaching the 2.5% of GDP spending target, and this is not going unnoticed. Our special relationship with the United States has been a cornerstone of British foreign policy for decades, but now Starmer's frugality is putting all that at risk. Trump is unhappy, and when Trump is unhappy, everything can go wrong. He demands that NATO allies spend more on defense and has made it clear that he expects the allies to pay. So what's Starmer's plan? Is he really willing to risk decades of military cooperation to save a few pounds? Trump is not the only one upset. Members of Parliament from Starmer's party are sounding the alarm. Luke Ackerhurst, Dan Carden, Tan Desi, Luke Pollard are not just casual supporters.
I can't believe, again, as you said there, that we have got a government that is putting the lives of our elderly at risk. These elderly have helped shape this country and put into this country over many decades. This country wouldn't be what it is today without those generations. Now, again, 4,000 could die, and that was their estimate in 2017, a Labour estimate. Now, prices have doubled since then, energy prices. So I'm predicting there could be a lot more. Now, this is a government that pre-election said that energy bills would come down and that they would look after pensioners. They've done the opposite. This is a Prime Minister that gets his specs paid for, his suits paid for. He gets the use of a £20 million penthouse for nothing. They are hypocrites and they are liars.
These are MPs from the Labour Party who publicly criticise their leader. They say that Starmer is not going to increase military spending, and this could jeopardise our relations with the United States. Penny Mordaunt, a former Conservative defence minister, even said that the Starmer government was determined to turn its back on the United States by default. When you're criticised from both sides, it's time to realise that you made a mistake. It's not just about pleasing your allies, it's about keeping Britain safe. By deferring defence spending, Starmer is putting our entire security at risk. We are talking about our military leadership in NATO. If we fail to fulfil our obligations, we will be sidelined.
Keir Starmer, I think, is doing a wonderful job of distracting from the main points on his own home ground. I've voted all parties for all colours, and I'm 50 years old. I can remember Thatcher. I can remember voting with regards to George Osborne and Cameron. But moreover, I will say one thing and one thing only. I'll let you ponder with this thought. I will never, ever vote Labour again, because all I can see from this party at the moment is distraction, 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 and they will plough on and run this country into the ground.
In today's world, staying away is extremely dangerous. Former defence ministers have warned that Starmer's approach could lead to Britain's serious marginalisation in NATO. We risk losing our voice in making key military decisions, which will significantly reduce our ability to defend our interests abroad. And, even worse, it can embolden our opponents. Starmer is playing with fire, endangering our national security. And for what? To balance the situation? This is happening at a time when the world is more unstable than ever. Conflicts are brewing all over the globe. Now is a completely inappropriate time to reduce defence spending. If another international crisis breaks out and Britain fails to intervene, it will be on Starmer's conscience. People will remember that it was he who weakened our army and endangered our alliances, just to save some money. Is Starmer really willing to sacrifice our global influence for a budget that looks a little better? That's exactly what it is. He is no longer just risking the future of the Labour Party, he is endangering the international standing of the entire country. And once that position is lost, it will be extremely difficult to regain it. See you soon.